Welcome to Season 2 of Sports Rule Pod. I'm Nick Elam. Here we explore innovations in sports and the journeys of individuals who make sports great. You can find Sports Rule Pod on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music. And there are many ways to engage with the podcast. LinkedIn, X, or Instagram at Sports Rule Pod, or by email nick.elam@sportsrulepod.com to submit your ideas for a rule change or innovation in sports. We're starting with a nice mix in episode 1, some baseball, some football, and some basketball. In the interview segment, we're joined by Dani Wexelman, the St. Louis Cardinals pre- and post-game host and reporter, and MLB Network Radio host on SiriusXM. Dani shares how she finds time to fulfill all of her many responsibilities. She shares how her producer background helps her when she appears on air, and she discusses one innovative practice that she would like to see Major League Baseball lean into more. In the innovation segment, we have an intriguing fan-submitted idea pertaining to the way certain penalties are administered in football. In the brand new Unlayered segment, we take a look at how certain topics are presented and debated in sports media. And in the next to last segment, we revisit a very memorable 2026 NBA Finals and a fateful next to last possession for the Spurs in Game 4. Let's get to it. We are so fortunate to be joined by Dani Wexelman, who is the St. Louis Cardinals pre- and post-game host and reporter and MLB Network Radio host on SiriusXM. Dani, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Nick. I am so excited. Thank you for your patience. Trying to work through the schedule that we've got here. It's been a whirlwind, but yeah, I'm excited to be here, excited to catch up.
Well, I know you're extremely busy. That'll be one of the topics that we discuss here in a little bit. First, I'd like to ask kind of an off-topic question about if you could attend a sporting event at any venue that is no longer active, where would you go?
Oh, it's a great question. I think that like when you look at the scope of sports and, where sports go and where sports are played, I think about it's outside baseball. It's outside probably what many people would expect. But there was a college basketball game played on an aircraft carrier, and Michigan State was a part of that. And I think that the combination of playing in the ocean, on an aircraft carrier, on like a service ship with this sporting event is something that would be once in a lifetime, would literally never happen again. And so for me, like, I think that would be the ultimate type of opportunity to be a sports fan and watch something. I love college basketball. I love Tom Izzo, excuse me. And so I would love to do something like that.
Very cool answer. And yes, I know you have a respect and a connection to the armed forces, which might come up here later in our discussion. Another thing I'm curious about is tell us something that you've learned recently. This could be something that's big or small. It could be career related or not. Just anything that you've learned recently.
Yeah, I think I'm always learning in this job, in life, constantly. And every day I'm probably making some type of mistake or something that I'm learning from. I think that, Bob Ross probably said it best. There's no such thing as mistakes, just happy accidents. So yeah, I think in and around everything I'm doing with a job that I know how to do the job, but there's a lot of life learning that's happening when you leave a place like New York I've been in for so long and come back to a city that I grew up in, but not quite the place that I grew up in, and being around, hundreds of new people all the time working in this sport and in this job. And so I think like just for me, it's probably one of the biggest things I've learned recently that's kind of lame maybe and not necessarily the sexy answer you're looking for is patience in the learning curve. And, I'm without in New York City, for 13 years, and you kind of know your routines, your routes that you take, where to go to get X, Y, and Z. You're walking everywhere. Here, I have a car back in St. Louis, so I'm driving everywhere again. I haven't really driven or had a car for 13 years. So just patience in just adjustments. Every day is some type of adjustment that I'm making. And that's kind of what I'm really good at. New York taught me that. Just being able to weave your way through inconveniences or things that are not common to you or things that you're not used to. So I think I'm relearning some new patient skills or flexing my patient muscles because everything is a little new for me. Even though the job is old and I've been doing this a really long time, there's just so much new that's still surrounding me. So I would say that's my answer.
Well, we Midwesterners, we sometimes move a little slower than those in New York, but you are a Midwesterner at heart. So hopefully that hasn't been as tough of an adjustment as it might be for others. Now, in the roles that you hold now with the Cardinals and MLB Network Radio, take us through a typical week of how you balance the time demands of those roles.
Yeah. Every single day of my life for the last 7 years has been different. There's been zero consistency to what my schedule has looked like. And I'll narrow it down to the last 4 years, which is really similar to this season with the Cardinals and with radio, is that I know every Sunday I will have my radio show on SiriusXM. So I know that I'm going to work out in the morning. I will prep after I get back and I'll do the show, and then I'll have Sunday night free to do whatever I want to do. If I want to stay in and watch the game, if I want to go hang out with my friends, if I want to go to dinner, whatever it is. And then Mondays used to be an admin day for me. The last 4 years, I could kind of block that day off and take care of my business and pay my rent and get my groceries and do all the little things that you need. Most people do on Saturdays and Sundays, but I work almost every weekend. So I think Mondays now have become, for example, the Monday that we're recording this, I hosted a 3-hour radio show or co-hosted on SiriusXM. So I got up at 5. The show was from 6 to 9. I took a nap after that because tonight I'll host pre and post for the St. Louis Cardinals. So it's going to be a long day. So I decided to take a nap today, get up, take care of some personal things for myself. Tomorrow we have a doubleheader. And in between, I would say different moments, I'm doing different kinds of prep. So if I'm prepping for pre and post, that looks a lot different than if I'm prepping to be the sideline reporter. So like those things require different amount of attention and detail and trying to just make sure, do I have notes for storytelling? Do I have notes to entertain and inform people on a pre and post game show? They look completely different. They're not similar in most ways. And so in between life things of maybe it's doing my nails, maybe it's getting my hair done, maybe it is going to see my mom or my family or something of that nature. I think in between all those things, I am prepping. Most of my job is prep. So this week is 5 games in 4 days. And then when we're recording this, we're heading into All-Star. I'll head to New York. I'll cover the draft on Saturday for SiriusXM. Sunday, I'll travel to Philadelphia. Monday and Tuesday, I will work for SiriusXM. Wednesday, I fly back to St. Louis. Thursday, I fly with the team to Arizona. And then we're on the road for 7 days. And so as you can kind of see, like really every single week is different. I fill in on SiriusXM. I don't know that schedule until the week before. So last week I got asked to fill in this week, Monday and Wednesday. So I have, as I said, radio today, game tonight, doubleheader tomorrow. I'll have radio on Wednesday, game Wednesday night, game Thursday, and then I'm off. Off days are hard to come by right now. And in between, I am trying to, I get requests like these. You try to do as many as you can. I get requests from college students to talk through the hurdles of looking for jobs or how to navigate this industry. So I'm trying to answer those calls or answer those emails. And then also I host a podcast for the Cape Cod League, and I do a little work on the college side for Perfect Game. So there's no balance, Nick. It's just juggling. I have a calendar, I have a paper calendar, I have my phone, and then it's finding time to turn your brain off and see your friends and family and invest in yourself. So I would say use my full 24 hours as much as I can.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And there's no shame in napping by any means.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you could give us the quick rundown of the roles that you've held leading up to your current roles.
Yes. I'll give you the quick and dirty. So when I graduated from Mizzou, it was really hard to find a job. I actually stayed at Mizzou for a semester. I took a sports psychology class and this like technology class where we built an app. And then I was working for the local station KOMU, where I'd worked in college, and then doing a little work for the football team. I got a job, an internship actually, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, working for a minor league team. The Harrisburg Senators, they are AA for the Washington Nationals. And I was the digital and social media intern. But if you work in minor league baseball, you know that I was also part of the grounds crew. I was the mascot and did appearances. I put up papers in toilets to make sure people knew what events were going on at the ballpark. You do a little bit of everything. I scrubbed handrails. I cleaned spider webs off of bleachers. I cleaned suites. I was chased by bees. Like, you do the whole thing when you're an intern in minor league baseball. And then I went back to Missouri. I worked for Veterans United Home Loans. I got out of sports. I specialized in the media side, telling military stories, veterans who active duty or retired who use their benefits to buy a home, and colliding with sports. So I was kind of scratching that itch and realized that I need to get back into sports. And so I had a friend who was over at MLB.com, MajorLeagueBaseball.com, editing highlights, and I reached out to him, and there was a freelance job in New York City for the 2014 season. So I flew to New York, I interviewed on my dime, and I got the job. Brian Mortensen is his name. He's a huge reason that I'm talking to you about all this today, because he helped get my resume to the top, which you need in this industry. I worked there for 3 years. I went full time. I was editing highlights and producing. And then I started producing and editing podcasts. And then I was hosting them. And then I moved to being able to join a digital show. I was doing sideline for youth baseball and softball at MLB. And then I got laid off in 2019. My floor combined with MLB Network's floor. And so everyone on my floor was laid off. So I just got my own apartment in New York. And I was thriving. I was moving in the direction I wanted to in New York City. And so I had to kind of rebuild. That's when radio came into my life, and I started filling in on some weekend shows. My friend Darren Sutton, who I worked with at Perfect Game for a long time, had me fill in. And then I picked up rugby and lacrosse, and then the pandemic hit, and then I lost all of those again. Radio kind of stayed consistent. And eventually I got asked to move to host the Sunday show. And that gave me a little more consistency. And then I started filling in. And then in 2022, I had been doing some play-by-play. I had a boss, my boss at ESPN, who had reached out to me. His name's Phil Orlins. And Phil asked if I wanted to come do play-by-play for college baseball for ESPN and sideline the Men's College World Series, which was a dream of mine. So I went from really struggling, having a hard time trying to pay rent, trying to get consistent work that I felt proud of. And I was signed with ESPN. I did that for 4 years alongside doing SNY studio work. They called about 2 weeks later and asked if I would come join their programming. So the last 4 years, I was working at ESPN, SNY, MLB Network Radio, doing some work for Perfect Game on the amateur side, covering top high school and college prospects. And then this year, everything has changed again. And in February, I interviewed for the Cardinals pre- and postgame host and reporter role and got that. So a lot has changed. A lot has happened in my life. But like ultimately, I wouldn't be where I am right now or the level that I think I'm at. I think I'm very good at what I do if I hadn't had every trial and tribulation, a lot of tears, a lot of rejection, a lot of struggles, honestly. But like ultimately knowing that I would land on my feet and knowing what I was capable of kind of carries you through. But it's a struggle. Dream chasing is expensive. It's very hard. People don't tell you most of those things. They just tell you to shoot for the moon and hope you land somewhere close. So yeah, it's been quite the journey for me.
And you've truly earned this exciting opportunity that you have now with the Cardinals.
Thank
It's
you.
extra special because you grew up as a Cardinals fan. How did you find out that you got this job, and who was the first person that you told?
Yeah, I mean, how did I find out that I got the job? I just got a call from my boss now, who is at the Cardinals, after I interviewed, who let me know that they were hoping to hire me. My first call was to my mom. My second call was to some of my best friends who have been there through all of it and had to pick me up a couple times off the floor and were so important to me, similar to my mom and her role in my life. So, yeah, I mean, really a whirlwind, I think, of a moment and of the beginning of the year, unbeknownst to me that this would happen. Not planning on moving, not planning on having a job of this caliber this year. So, quite the journey, I would say, starting in February. Yeah.
You mentioned also earlier the wearing all hats nature of minor league baseball. I used to work on the
Yeah.
grounds crew for the minor league Dayton Dragons, and
Get it?
we would have a small crew, and we knew that if we had a really big storm rolling in, we would start to see some faces that we weren't used to seeing. We knew that they were front office people, front office interns coming down with a change of clothes to do something that they probably hadn't signed up for. But when you work in minor league baseball, you kind of sign up for everything. Thinking about if it's possible to pick out just one of those roles that you've had, past or present, what is a big misconception that people have about a role that you've held?
Gosh. I think that it's easy, that anyone could do it. I think people see talking heads on TV or they see my social media highlight reel and don't see behind the scenes of what goes into jobs like that. And when you're still, there's an importance of being present and leaning all the way into where you are and being the best at whatever you are at that moment. And also being ambitious and wanting to make sure that your career is growing the way that it should. And so it's like you're literally like watering and tending to like a forest of dreams, essentially. And you have to take care of that forest and then also hope that, you continue to grow bigger and bigger. It's really tough. I think what people don't see is the travel, the delays, the amount of homework that I do to be intelligent and to be well informed, to have opinions that are backed by fact or by substance, not just shock jock type radio. I think that that's what people don't see. And so you just see the end product. You don't really see how the sausage is made. And the sausage being made is it's not for everybody. And I think that the choices that you make when you're in roles like these, it's not just me, it's everyone who does this job, is you miss weekends and holidays and family events and birthdays and weddings and showers and babies. And you make choices because sports happen when everyone else's regular life is happening, right? Like people often take a break from their life to watch sports. Whereas I take a break from sports to go tend to my life. And so I think people maybe underestimate the amount of work it takes to be at the top of your game, to be the best. I know that the people who are the best in my sport and the best in media and entertainment are working like dogs and working hours that people aren't willing to work and time zones. And I'll get on a flight early so that I can go do a radio show, which probably means I'm missing out at something at home, or I'll stay late in a city to take care of my radio or take care of something, because those things, those are the choices I'm willing to make for my career. And you miss a lot. And you try to make it up in other ways. So I think that's probably the biggest misconception or just the misunderstanding of this job, is that you just show up and your script is there for you, and no one's doing my makeup, no one's doing my hair, no one is getting my groceries or doing things like that. Like I'm taking care of the whole kit and caboodle. It's all me, and it's my responsibility. And so I would say those are probably some of the things people don't get to see, and just the background work to be really good when the lights come on.
And you truly have done it all, and that includes some work as a producer. I'm curious, what has the on-camera version of Dani Wexelman learned from Dani Wexelman, the producer?
Details, paying attention to details. I think that when you're on camera, so it is, for me, it's easy to forget sometimes. Like if you go into a production truck, there's 8 million things happening at one time. And when you ask your producer for something, he's probably got you in one ear, he's got someone else in his other ear, he's listening to his director, his graphics op, his tech director, his tape producer. He's listening to a million people at once, and then you're chiming in. And so details, timing, patience are things like, as a producer, and things that I did on the other side of the camera remind me that when you really want to get a story in, or you need something, that there's a lot of other things happening. You are not the only person who needs attention. And so I think that has made me better at my job, and it makes everybody better when you are able to have produced, when you understand what goes into piecing things together, and how many different voices and sequences and people. There's a lot of people who think it should go one way, right? And you're collaborating with a lot of people. It's not just about you. And so I think producing and having that background, sometimes when you forget it for a moment, it can dial you back in and be like, okay, wait a second. I know what's going on back there. I know why my producer's not talking to me. And I'm going to take a beat and I'm going to give him a second. And then I'm going to come back in. Or if we're trying to put something together, just kind of understanding that there's a lot of different visions. And sometimes collaborative visions work best in different scenarios.
After considering all of the skills and knowledge that you've developed up to this point, what's a skill that you're still looking to develop?
Oh, yes. A lot. I think I can be sharper in a lot of different ways, and being able to navigate traffic when you are going from segment to segment. Some segments, there's no natural connector to them. And so sometimes it's kind of clunky trying to get from one thing to another. Or when you are telling a story and you're reporting and things are happening around you in the game, and trying to maintain your focus to deliver a punch, right? I think being efficient with my words is probably the thing I really want to get better at, and making sure that when I speak, I'm delivering and I'm saying it succinctly and effectively, and you're entertaining. There's a lot of different theories about how you should deliver things, and everyone has their own idea of how a host or a presenter should be or should be saying. So it's tough, right? Because when you come from one producer, he thinks one thing or she thinks another thing. And so you're trying to navigate that. But I would say, like, in my career right now, whether it's sideline or hosting or anything else I'm doing, if I'm on radio, especially, packing a punch and delivering with authority and with personality, I think are things that I'm always striving to be better at right now. So those are probably, like, I would say efficiency and just being able to pack that punch in any scenario that I might be working in.
Who are some of the top mentors that you've had in your career to develop the skills you have, or that you might look to continue developing the ways that you mentioned?
Yeah, I've been lucky. I have had a lot of people in my life who've supported me and have made sure that whether they've got to call me and give me some tough love, or I need some extra love and support, they've been there for me. I think, like, first and foremost, my parents, my dad in particular, who taught me constructive criticism at a really young age, and I think has been one of the biggest lessons that I've had in my life that I've carried with me. I don't take many things personally. I don't pick battles all the time. I listen often more than I speak, even though my job is to speak. In my life, I'm listening a lot more than I'm speaking. And those things came from him. I played sports growing up because my dad put me in sports and loved sports. And those lessons of, like, being on a team, being a teammate, losing is one of the biggest lessons, and taking risks and failing have been, like, the best lessons. All of those come from my dad. My mom was the breadwinner. And so watching her, I think, and understanding that a woman could be that role and be a caregiver and be my mom who would come home every night and cook dinner after she worked all day. That for me was incredible to see throughout my life. And I paid attention. That stood out to me. Every day she would leave early and come home and make us dinner and made sure we had food on the table and a great dinner to eat. And then I think, like, in my sports life, one of the biggest ones, two of the biggest ones at Mizzou, I had a mentor. His name was Kent Collins. He passed away a couple of years ago. had one of the most profound impacts on me and my career, and his love and support meant a lot, and still do. My friend Shannon Hogan, who was a mentor and became family in my life. Kent introduced us together. So I think those two people and then my parents have probably had some of the bigger impacts. But I've had a lot of people, female and male, who've been in and out of my life. I have a lot of great allies at SiriusXM, at SNY, building them at the Cardinals right now, people who are in your corner and want the best for you. You've got to be set up to succeed, right? You've got to have a selfless group of people around you who just want the best for you and support you. And that also requires you to be a great teammate and to have a great attitude. You can control those things. And I think when you do, you're rewarded with people around you who just want to elevate you and want you to shine really bright. And I have that in my life. I'm very lucky.
We're here with Dani Wexelman, and I have an extra admiration for people not only who are good at what they do, but are kind while they are doing it. I'm curious, with baseball being such a family, a large family, if you go somewhere such as All-Star festivities or the winter meetings that brings together people from all across baseball, who is a friendly, familiar face that you look for, who you just know that they'll be kind and your day will be a little bit better by chatting with them?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. It's quite the fraternity that we have, and it's cool. I think it's like the next generation of baseball reporters and writers and those who are covering the game. I have grown up the last decade with all these people around me, and now they're in national spotlights and national roles. So there's quite a large contingency of people. One of them, her name is Disha Thosar. She covers baseball for Fox Sports. Disha's one of my favorite people to see out at the ballpark, and get to see a familiar face and know that, you know, we come from different places and we've worked in different backgrounds and whatnot, but getting to see her is a treat for me always. There's a lot of people who are just like that we get to see at All-Star or winter meetings. Postseason in particular, it's quite a grind. So you're just with people that I think at this point in my career, like, things that matter to me are people who give energy, right? And people who support you and genuinely want the best for you. And I have a very large group of people who think the same way, right? Everyone wants to be the best. They want to climb to the top of their job. They want to climb to the top of the sport and be whatever the best is. They are striving to be that. And in the meantime, they're crushing it in the roles that they have. So Disha is one of many people, I think, in my life that I look forward to seeing at the park.
Coming down the stretch here, and we can go a little bit rapid fire before we get to our final questions. But for much of your career, you've been immersed in the world of college baseball, and I've never been to the College World Series, but it's very high on my sports fan to-do list. Can you paint a picture of what I can expect when I go to the College World Series and how it will surprise me as someone who is mainly a Major League Baseball fan?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, you're watching essentially what looks like minor league teams and the future of the sport with guys being called up so soon. You're probably watching your favorite team's next superstar in Omaha. I can guarantee you that. The level of talent is as high as it gets. The amount of guys who will go on to be all-stars and potential future Hall of Famers like Paul Skeens are on the field out there right now. And the folks who work in Omaha and the way that it is set up and the ballpark at the Chuck, like, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I couldn't recommend it more. Not only do they give fans like an incredible village next door to the ballpark where you can walk through and get to know the teams and have that experience, but inside the ballpark, it's 10 out of 10. And I think that just knowing the talent that's there, the people, like the coaches who are in college baseball are some of my favorite humans. They're entertaining. They get it. They understand that it's not just a business, but it's an entertainment product. They provide the entertainment. And the fans, I mean, college sports fans are some of the best in all of sports, especially SEC, ACC fans. And then you always have your Cinderellas who are there. And I think the variety of teams that end up making it and the stories that are there to share on that stage is reason enough to go to Omaha and go to middle of America and watch the greatest show on dirt.
Now, Major League Baseball has introduced a number of different rule changes and innovations in recent years. Do you have a favorite among those?
Yeah, I like the pitch clock. I am a fan of the pitch clock right now. I think that the game, I didn't love the idea of timing the game, but I love how the pace of play and the idea of more action happening more frequently in our game is happening. So I think, like, I'm curious to see studies come out, and I'm hoping that there are not correlations between pitch clock and arm injuries. That is something I think about often. So I would immediately take my answer back if that was the case. But I do think that the pace of the game has allowed fans to come in, put their phones down, stay in their seats, or maybe they wander and they're entertained by something in the ballpark, but then they come back because they want to watch the action because it's so good. College softball, I think, is the best at packing action, and the sport moves, right? There's always something happening every moment. Baseball's never going to be like that, but as close as it could get, I think, to an entertainment value. And that would be, for me, like, I think that's one of the better rules that have been implemented in the sport.
If you could be commissioner for a day, is there another rule change or innovation that you would back?
Yeah, I would really like to let the players show more personality. And I would either implement more player type weekends or days to celebrate players, and allow them to show off their style, wearing different jerseys, different bats, cleats, hats, whatever it may be, giving these guys more chances to be themselves and show off who they are as humans, not just as ball players. I would implement more of that. I never really understand why the rules are so strict in baseball when it comes to the details of your jerseys and your hats and cleats and whatnot. I can understand it to an extent, but I think allowing guys to be who they are and show you, the fans, who they are would be great.
And as we wrap up here, please tell us about the Larry Wexelman Memorial Scholarship.
I appreciate you asking that. Yeah, I created this scholarship in honor of my dad, who's Larry Wexelman. He passed away when I was 16. He was sick when I was 12, with sarcoma. He was in Vietnam. He was drafted out of college. He went to Vietnam, and he was exposed to Agent Orange. And so he was sick when I was 12. He passed when I was 16. And so I created this to honor him, honor the work that he did. He was a guidance counselor in St. Louis, and his mission was to help these high school students have an opportunity to seek higher education, to go to college, to know they deserve to go to college. And so I had been thinking about something, my life really is honoring my dad and my last name and everything that he taught me. But I wanted to do something a little bit more. I had been in New York for so long. I wanted to find a way to give back. So the scholarships, I crowdsource, I fundraise money, and these scholarships go to graduating seniors at Valley Park High School in St. Louis and my alma mater, which is Eureka High School in St. Louis. And those scholarships go to the families of kids who, whatever the circumstances may be, we raise money, my friends and my family and people who support me, in honor of my dad. Yeah, so to keep his legacy alive, and I think to honor the work that he did. I think whenever you lose a loved one so young, there's lots of things you think, but the thing I think the most is just not letting that death be in vain. And so trying to make sure that his mission continues to be carried out, which I can do. So I appreciate you asking about that.
Well, that's wonderful what you've done. And I'm curious, is there anything else that you would like to share?
No, I think we covered so much. I appreciate you asking such thoughtful questions and having such a great conversation, truly.
Yeah, this was great. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dani Wexelman, for joining us.
Yeah, Nick.
In the innovation segment, we explore innovations of all types in the world of sports and at all stages of implementation and consideration. If you have an idea for a rule change or innovation that you'd like for me to discuss on a future episode, you can submit that by email, nick.elam@sportsrulepod.com, LinkedIn, X, or Instagram @sportsrulepod. In this episode, we have a fan-submitted idea pertaining to the sport of football and submitted by Michael James. Michael's rule change idea is to completely eliminate the half the distance to the goal line consideration when administering penalties. And as football fans are well aware, if an offense is called for, say, a false start at almost any part of the field, then they are given a 5-yard penalty. But if they commit that same penalty at, say, their own 6-yard line, then instead of being penalized 5 yards, they're penalized half the distance to the goal line, which turns out to be a 3-yard penalty. Or as another example, if a defense is called for, say, a face mask penalty at almost any part of the field, they're penalized 15 yards. But if they commit that same penalty at, say, their opponent's 8-yard line, then instead of being penalized 15 yards, that ball is advanced just half the distance to the goal line to the 4-yard line, essentially making it a 4-yard penalty. Michael's proposal would call for the full yardage penalty to be administered whenever there is room to do so. And if there isn't room to do so, if doing so would place the ball in the end zone, then the ball would be placed at the 1-yard line instead. So to revisit that false start example, if that same team committed a false start when they were on their own 6-yard line, they would be penalized the full 5 yards because there's room to do so, and the ball would be placed at the 1-yard line. In the other example of a defense being called for a face mask at the 8-yard line, since administering the full 15-yard penalty would put the ball in the end zone, then the ball would be placed at the 1-yard line instead. And also for a little clarification, Michael's proposal does not call for any additional scenarios where there's an automatic penalty-related touchdown or safety administered, but there are some already rare scenarios in the NFL where an automatic safety is granted, that being if the offense commits a holding penalty in the end zone or the offense commits an intentional grounding penalty in the end zone. Michael's proposal would not affect those rules that are already in place. I'm a fan of this proposal. It's not the type of proposal that will necessarily attract new fans or generate revenue growth or anything like that, but it's very logical and it seems to have no downsides to it, no unintended consequences. Actually, Michael's proposal follows a similar logic to what the NFL already follows on one penalty call in particular, that being defensive pass interference. There is never any consideration of half the distance to the goal line when a defensive pass interference penalty is called. And in instances when DPI is committed in the end zone, then the ball is placed at the 1-yard line. Michael is proposing to essentially extend a similar logic to all other penalties. Now, in case you're thinking that Michael's proposal is too harsh toward penalized teams, let's revisit that face mask example one more time. If a defense commits a face mask penalty at the 8-yard line, under the current rules, that turns what would normally be a 15-yard penalty essentially into a 4-yard penalty. Under Michael's proposal, the ball is advanced as far as possible, up to 15 yards, but not into the end zone. And so it would essentially turn what would normally be a 15-yard penalty into a 7-yard penalty by advancing it all the way up to the 1-yard line. So Michael's proposal still offers some common sense relief to penalize teams, but it doesn't water down the penalties as much as the current rules do. And if we believe that yardage penalties are a deterrent, and that's why those yardage penalties exist in the first place, then theoretically, Michael's proposal would be a more effective deterrent than the half the distance to the goal line consideration. So altogether, I see Michael's proposal of eliminating the half the distance to the goal line consideration as very logical, with little to no downside, but also little potential to move the needle on the NFL's bottom line. And so with all that considered, on the -10 to +10 good idea scale, I give Michael's proposal an 8. Thank you for your submission, Michael. And we are now into the brand new Unlayered segment of Sports Rule Pod. And all I'm trying to do with the Unlayered segment is change the world. That's all. But it's inspired by a hope to have more thoughtful, more civil, more fruitful discussions and debates. And I think I can do it best by sharing little to none of my own opinions. And I'll also try to share it with little to no preachiness, because I think we can agree that there is a surplus of that out there. So if I ever get too preachy, I hope you'll call me out on it. Instead, I plan to do it with a measured and sometimes fun exercise that I've conducted over the years when following how certain topics are presented and debated in sports media. And that is to count the number of layers that a certain topic's discussion and debate strays from the fundamental topic. And you might find value in this exercise and its spirit, quite simply that there is more value and more challenge in taking the time to re-examine and solidify and articulate our own views on a fundamental topic, compared to playing it safe and waiting for a debate to stray so far from the fundamental topic, or to add so many layers on top of the base layer or base topic before chiming in on someone else's actions or opinions. Here in episode 1, we'll explore a relatively light example with relatively few layers. In the summer of 2026, the basketball world was riveted waiting for LeBron James, with 23 NBA seasons under his belt already, waiting to hear his decision on where he would sign for the last chapter of his legendary career. There was speculation that he might sign with Cleveland or Miami or Golden State, but he ultimately signed with one of the other top contenders, Philadelphia, in July, and he signed for 2 years, $8 million, which was much less than what he could have demanded. Now, because the 76ers already have a strong team with incumbent stars Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and recently acquired star Jaylen Brown, some criticized LeBron's decision to sign with Philadelphia as an easy avenue to pursue a championship ring. And I saw an article recently from longtime journalist and sports media personality Rob Parker actually calling LeBron's decision pathetic and labeling LeBron as the ultimate ring chaser. Now, I won't share my opinion of LeBron's decision to sign with Philadelphia or Rob Parker's reaction to it. That's not the spirit of the Unlayered segment. What is the spirit is to examine how far this debate has already strayed from a fundamental topic and has taken us away from what could potentially be a much more fruitful and civil debate. Now, presumably what this article is meant to do is to draw a strong reaction from the reader. But if you have a strong reaction to this article, then just keep in mind that what you have is your opinion about the writer's portrayal of Rob Parker's opinion about LeBron's decision based on a whole other fundamental topic, a base layer that's 4 layers below what this article has brought us to. With that base layer being, what should the top considerations be for an athlete, particularly a star athlete in the last chapter of their career? What should their top considerations be when signing as a free agent? Is it money? Is it geography? Is it family considerations? Is it chemistry with the coach or teammates or executives on the team? Is it the fan base or local media? Is it opportunities to build one's brand off the court? Is it a team's chances of winning a championship or something else? Now, I'm not here to tell you what the right answer is to that question because I'm not sure there is a right answer. But what I do know is that our time would be better spent re-examining, solidifying, articulating our own thoughts and views on that fundamental topic and a complex topic of what should an athlete's top considerations be when signing as a free agent, then spending our time reacting to an article that takes us 4 layers away from that fundamental topic, and it's likely to only lead to more layers of debate rather than any sort of resolution or enlightenment. So the next time you find yourself in a debate, I hope you'll make it an unlayered debate, and you'll find that we agree on more than you'd expect, and we can respectfully disagree on the rest. And I definitely welcome submissions for the topics of the Unlayered segment. So if you happen to find an article or a sports talk segment or a social media post that takes us far away from a fundamental topic or debate, I encourage you to submit it. And I think it'll be pretty easy to find those. We saw that it's very easy to find already an article that takes us 4 layers away from a fundamental topic or that base layer. And I'm sure we can find articles and debates and tweets and such that take us many more layers away. In the next to last segment, we acknowledge a next to last from the past. And in this episode, we revisit the next to last possession for the San Antonio Spurs in Game 4 of the 2026 NBA Finals. The 2026 NBA Finals will go down as one of the most anticipated finals in history, in large part because the Knicks had a chance to win their first championship in 53 years, because of the certainty that Madison Square Garden would be rocking all the way from the rafters down to courtside where so many A-list celebrities were found, and because it would be the first finals appearance for Spurs star Victor Wembanyama, whose career has the potential to be on a Hall of Fame inner circle trajectory. And besides that, the 2026 NBA Finals will go down as one of the memorable finals based on what happened on the court, in part because of Jalen Brunson's unbelievable performance and MVP performance that solidified his superstar status and maybe the coolest superstar out there, but also because of the Spurs' incomprehensible squandered leads throughout the series. They lost game 1 after building a 12-point lead. They lost game 2 after building a 14-point lead. They did win game 3 at Madison Square Garden, but then they also lost the decisive game 5 in San Antonio after building a 16-point lead. But the individual game and the individual blown lead that stands out comes from game 4, when the Spurs seemed well on their way to tying the series and retaking control of the series before they allowed the greatest comeback in NBA Finals history, with the Knicks coming back from a 29-point deficit that they faced early in the third quarter, and they still faced a 20-point deficit with 9:33 remaining in the fourth quarter, and the Knicks were actually able to erase that deficit entirely before the clock even hit the 1-minute mark. And that was despite a blown breakaway layup by Josh Hart, which almost caused Larry David to faint on the sideline, and which looked like it might cost the Knicks the game. Now, the most memorable play from the game, and what will go down as one of the most memorable plays in NBA Finals history, was a superhuman tip-in by OG Anunoby to give the Knicks on their final possession a 1-point lead with just 1.2 seconds remaining. And the win was sealed for the Knicks on the Spurs' unsuccessful last possession of the game, which started with a promising inbounds pass from Dylan Harper to a cutting and open Stephon Castle, but the ball was deflected just by a fingertip by Karl Anthony Towns. But much of the water cooler talk from this game focused on the Spurs' next to last possession, which is the focus of this next to last segment. That possession started with a missed shot by the Knicks that was tipped out all the way across the court. And the Spurs' De'Aaron Fox picked up the ball in full stride with about 13 seconds left and just a few steps away from the basket, with the Spurs with a 1-point lead and with the Knicks' OG Anunoby in close pursuit of him. After picking up the ball, De'Aaron Fox had to make a split-second decision. Either keep his momentum going to the basket and try for a layup that would put the Spurs up by 3 points, or change course and try to dribble away in an effort to exhaust time. Fox decided to go for the layup, and that layup attempt was blocked by Anunoby, which kept the margin at 1 and set up the Knicks' final possession. Fox was hounded mercilessly for his decision to go for the layup by those who believe he should have tried to dribble away and exhaust time. But even if he had tried to dribble away, it would not have been quite as beneficial as what some believed. By dribbling away, Fox likely would have only been able to exhaust an additional 1 or 2 seconds before being fouled, certainly not the entire full 13 seconds remaining. Now, if it had played out that way, then yes, the Spurs would have been able to increase their lead by 1 or 2 points by free throw, but they still would have had to defend the Knicks for one more possession. Fox believed he had a sure 2 points right in front of him, and he went for it. Now, that next to last possession for the Spurs, to whatever extent it is remembered over time, is likely to be remembered for Fox's decision, which is unfortunate because it overshadows an incredible effort and pursuit by OG Anunoby to make that block. Fortunately for Anunoby, nothing will ever overshadow the play that he made on the Knicks' subsequent possession. An incredible leap and tip in that he made off of a Jalen Brunson missed three-pointer that gave the Knicks the lead and had a seismic effect on the series and on NBA history. The very last thing I'd like to do is to thank all of you for your engagement with Sports Rule Pod. Remember, you can submit a idea for a rule change or innovation to Sports Rule Pod by email nick.elam@sportsrulepod.com or LinkedIn, X, or Instagram @sportsrulepod. That's also where you can submit ideas for the Unlayered segment or the next to last segment. Like or subscribe wherever you find the podcast and look for Season 2 episodes to be released every 2 weeks on Friday mornings. See you next time.